Welcome back to the MetSci Scientific channel. I'm Nick Hawks. We're going to be talking about local integration setup, which is part of the MetSci demo tutorial. First thing is always put on my glasses so I can see what the heck is going on. Now we're going to set up three things here. This might be a little bit of a longer video. We're going to set up our Node-RED flows. We are going to set up InfluxDB, so the database, and we're going to set up Grafana. So we'll start with Node-RED flows. Now Node-RED flows, as you can see on the screen here, we're just going to set up these things so that when the data comes in from our MetSci Scientific console, when the data comes in from the LDDS75, that it goes through this flow and it gets cleaned up, it gets routed to the correct device. For right now, for this tutorial, we're only setting up one device, which is the LDDS75. But you could set up 100 devices, and I've got an AM319 set up as a demo as well, and then that will go into InfluxDB. Into our database. So we will cruise over to my instance of Node-RED. And the way you're going to get to this, if you've never done this stuff before, it can be easy for those of us who have to forget, is in your search bar up here, or URL bar, you're going to put in the IP of your Pi. So in my case, it's 192.168.101.2, and then the port, which is 1880. So 1880 will send it to Node-RED on your Pi. And that's it. That's how you do it. It's pretty darn easy. We're going to start off with an HTTP in, and you're going to find that by just typing HTTP or HTT or whatever it is that you want. So with Node-RED, you search for your thing in here, and then you find it and you drag it in. It's pretty darn easy. It's meant to be super easy. I'm going to double click that, and that will bring up what I want to do here, which is post. And then for this URL, remember we set this up in when we did our Cloudflare, and then we also set up in our integration over in the MetSci console. We're going to set this up as MetSci LDDS75-data. Cool. And then I'm going to name, this is the name of the node. This part doesn't matter as much, but it's just, it's going to be descriptive, LDDS. 75 input. Cool. And that is now, the first part is done. What we're then going to do is get our next node. In this case, we don't have to type anything in because it's just a response node. And then we're going to drag this wire from one node to another. I'll double click this guy. There's actually nothing you need to do here other than call it the HTTPS response node. And I bet you could just get away with not even calling it that. But that's that there. Now we're going to go through the rest of the nodes and just set them up. So we'll do one more, and then I'll skip until pretty much until the end. So we're going to drag in a JSON node. And in this case, we're going to connect the input to the JSON. So what we're looking at so far, just to kind of back up a little bit, is that the data comes in from MetSci console, comes into our Pi, goes into this input, and then this response says, hey, cool, I got the data. Thanks so much for sending it. Like, it's just a kind of a cleanup piece. The data also goes to this JSON. We'll double click that. We're going to select always convert to JavaScript object. In this case, you can leave the message payload as it is. And then we're just going to name this parse JSON. Cool. I just set up my switch node. I called it route by device type. I set the property to message, and then I pasted in the stuff from the tutorial. And then the next part is, I mean, it's not super difficult, and you could totally figure it out if you wanted to, or if you're just paying attention, but just click this drop-down piece and hit contains. And then in this case, it's going to be LDDS75. I'm going to set up another one for my AM319 just so I have it. Contains AM319. And then we'll set up one more that is the otherwise. And now this thing is set up and ready to go there. So then we hit done. So now we'll go to function. Now the important part on the function is that you connect the right thing, one of these gray buttons to the right piece there. So this one, when you hover over, it says contains LDDS75. That's the one we want. We don't want the 3M19 and we don't want the otherwise. So we're just going to connect these guys. I'm going to double click that function. I'm going to name it LDDS75. And then I'm going to paste in from the tutorial all of the entirety of the function. So in the tutorial, I've got that. I go back to Node-RED, and we're going to, I'm going to Command A to delete everything. I'll paste that sucker in, and the function is now set up. And I go down to the bottom of my, or I scroll down to my tutorial, down to InfluxDB, which is the next thing that we're going to put in, InfluxDB out, because this is going to be sending it to our InfluxDB instance or service. And then here's where we're going to use the credentials, or the credentials from the file that we saved at the beginning. So the name of this is going to be the name of our organization as set in the credentials file at the beginning. So mine is Medio Scientific. Right now there's no server set up. I haven't set, oh, maybe I have set one up for this. But just for you guys, you would hit plus, and that will bring you to a service that looks like this. You're going to fill in all of these pieces. So the name again is going to be Medio Scientific. Use your organization name. The version you're going to choose is 2.0. The URL is localhost 8086. All of this stuff is in the tutorial. And then the token is going to be the token that was set up in your credential. So I'm going to copy and paste mine in here. I've seen that it, even if you put the long one in, when you come back, it'll kind of neck down to that short one. And then we'll update that. It will bring us back to the actual node. The organization, we're going to put Medio Scientific. And then the bucket will be sensors. The measurement will be blank, and this will be nanoseconds. So that's what we're going to do there. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, I did make one mistake there, is we're not going to name this Medio Scientific. We're going to name this local InfluxDB. If you have any questions there, go back into the tutorial and just follow the directions. It's all right there. It's all pretty darn straightforward, and you'll be good to go if you do that. So we'll hit done here, and now we've got our full flow. So from the time the data comes in, gets parsed, gets routed, gets sent through a function and into local DB, you're going to hit deploy. And now this thing is set up and ready to get information from our device. Okay, and now what we're going to do is I'm going to switch over to showing you the device, and I'm going to start firing packets through this sucker. So we'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see what I'm doing to start. All I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this little yellow piece, so this guy right here, and I'm going to pull it off and rotate it so that it connects both of the pins, and you may see it blink a bunch. You may pretty clearly, you can see this guy blinking here, and then there it was, it fired. What happened on the MetSci side, or sorry, on the Node-RED side, is we're now going to wait for this to come through. And typically what happens here is the first one is just a join. So if we go back over to MetSci and we look at our devices, it's this one right here, and we go into events. So today is the 21st of January. The last time I did this, last time I filmed part of this demo for like the 900th time was on the 17th. So what we're going to do here is wait for that thing to come through. So now it is the 21st of January. Cool. 10:48 in the morning. And we just saw the join come through. So that's great. I've got this guy set to fire. I don't know that you can see it. It just fired, but I got it set to fire every minute. So that just makes this part a lot easier to test and to double check. So I got my first up piece here, and what I should see, but I can see that the F count here is 0. That's fine. What I do know is that it's now firing. So I can go back into the Node-RED flow, and I see right here is that I'm getting all of the stuff that I want to get, which tells me, great, I've got everything set up correctly. It's coming into the MetSci input, getting a response, great. It's getting parsed here. It's getting routed to the correct function. It's going to the correct function. And then finally going into InfluxDB. I've got the debug on, so that's why I can see all of this red stuff on the bottom. And I'll try and hold this thing up so that you see the next time it fires, what will happen. There it goes. Is we'll see another set of data come through here, and this will get pushed down in the debug log. And so cool, right there, we saw it. That's good. The next thing we're going to do is go over to InfluxDB. Okay, so I got everything going. I'm going to go into InfluxDB. And this is the same kind of thing. So if you look up at the top here, this is 192.168.101.2. Again, that is my Pi's IP. And then 8086 is the port that we've got. So my username in this case is going to be, what did it set up this time? I think Ewok. EWOK. And the password here for me is this giant long ass thing. Oh, that was a token. Whoops. The password here is this guy. Sorry, I'm copying and pasting off screen. And then I'll drop it in here. Sign in. And cannot sign in. Okay, that's great. All right, I just had the wrong thing copied and pasted in. So now we're good to go. Okay, so in here, in InfluxDB, I've already got this thing set up with a query because I've done this just once or twice. I will turn off the demo. We'll go back to our tutorial. And in the tutorial, what we've got are a couple queries here. So you can just copy and paste this query in. One thing that is important when we go back to InfluxDB is you do need to change. So I'll just do that here. The device name, so make sure that your device is named LDDS3, make sure that your device name matches this thing here. And then we'll hit view raw data, and I'm going to hit submit over here. And great, I can see that there's data coming in. This thing's been firing for whatever it is, a minute or two already. So that's looking good. You can also use the other query that is on the tutorial. So if we go back there and we grab this next query, this guy here, and we put it into InfluxDB, and we're just checking to make sure that our data comes through here. Stuff that you will need to fix is you're going to need to change this to a local gateway name of yours. In my case, that is going to be Sweet Sage Pike. I know that one is nearby and probably picking this up. So Sage Pike. And then my region, US 915, by God, I'm in America. And everything else is good there. If I hit submit here, what I'm going to see is a bunch of data again. So that's great. This is the data coming from this specific gateway. So that means that we've got our InfluxDB set up, and we are ready to move on to our Grafana dashboard. Okay, so in the Grafana dashboard, I've already put in my username, which was generated for me in the setup piece. So muad'dib, and then the password. I'm going to hit login. And we'll get logged in here. So we are now okay. And we've already tested this stuff at least once. So you've seen this part so far. Now we're going to go to connections because we need to set up a new connection. And in Influx, so we're going to search for InfluxDB. We'll add a new data source. And now we're going to do all of the funky stuff. So you can follow along in the tutorial. All of this stuff is laid out for you, so you see exactly what's going on and where, what to name stuff, all of that thing here. That's just what I'm going to do on the video here. So the name of this thing is going to be Influx, local, InfluxDB. Just keeping it consistent. We can leave, or we'll check the default piece. The query language will be Flux. The URL is going to be HTTP and then your Pi address. So 192, and if you want, you can go ahead and just paste it from up here. Would probably be the easiest thing for you. Let's see. Yep, so that's in there. Allow cookies. We're going to leave that stuff alone. We're going to go down to auth, and we're going to toggle on credentials. The basic auth is toggled on, and then we'll go down to our user. And if you remember, our user here for Grafana was, I think was it muad'dib? No, this is for InfluxDB. Sorry, so that was Ewok for me. And then the password, let me go grab that off of my little credentials file, is going to be this guy here. So this is not the Grafana password. This is the InfluxDB password. And then for the rest of it, we'll go down and do the same thing. So I'm just pulling all of those Medios Scientific off of my credentials file. The token is going to be that long ass token. So we're just, and hopefully this is fairly obvious, setting it up so Grafana can say, yep, I will accept data from this InfluxDB. And then this, I think, is the defaults 10S and 1000. Yep, and all of this, again, is in the tutorial. So if you're following along with that, you're going to see all this stuff here. I've already set this up because I've already got this thing. So I'm going to go to dashboards. You would go to new dashboard up in the top right, and we're going to create a new dashboard. So you could use new or whatever. Use what I did. Use what you did. We're going to hit add visualization. We're going to say, hey, this is our local InfluxDB. That's the one we just picked. And what we're going to do now is go back to the tutorial and just grab a query from that tutorial, which is this guy right here. And we're going to say, hey, cool, show me, let me show you what I'm doing here. So I'm in Grafana, and I'm going to drop this query in here, and then I'll hit Query Inspector, hit Refresh, and I should get all my data coming in. I didn't because maybe I made the same mistake that you might have made, is I forgot to change this piece here. So let's refresh that again, and now I've got a ton of data coming in. Cool. So this first part looks pretty ugly, and I haven't been moving this sensor around that much. So it was, recording all the same pieces here. I'm going to move it a little bit around so we see a little bit more difference, and then you can see all these different crazy distances in here because I've been mucking about with this quite a bit. What we want to do here is just go through and configure all of these different visualization settings. So we'll start at the top. We're going to use a time series graph. You can open up the panel options, and we'll call this panel title the water level. You can put a description in here if you want, distance to the water in my rainwater tank or rainwater barrel, tank, whatever. That doesn't make that much of a difference. And then you can close up this panel options and go down to graph styles. We're going to leave it at lines. The line interpolation can stay the same. The line width is going to be 2, and the fill opacity is going to be 20. Now this doesn't make that much of a difference. So if you guys need to change stuff, like have fun playing around with this thing, and then connect to null variance or null values always. And then we can close that up. We can go down to standard options. This thing, I believe, is measuring in length units, and those are going to be millimeters. So we choose those. The minimum is going to be 0. And the maximum, I think the maximum that this sensor can do is 8,000. But for my tank, I think it's 2,500. It's 2.5 meters, is more than enough to give it what it needs. So far, because the thing is just sitting on my desk, it's probably not going to go that far out. Obviously, what is this? I'm guessing 300 millimeters right there. Not that far. So, and then for display name, this is, the decimals, you can hit 0. And then the display name, we're going to go back to the tutorial and just copy this field name piece. And that will make the display names go from being all these crazy things right here to being something a little bit cleaner. Cool. And we've got our distances here. Now I've got a bunch of different distances. You're only going to see one. Don't worry too much about this. You go down to thresholds, and I'm just showing you this. You don't need to set it. It comes automatic at 80 and base. But if you wanted to show that there's a threshold, like, hey, when this thing's 80% full, I want to see it on this dashboard, you can set it right here, and then save your dashboard. Go ahead, and if you want to call this anything you want, so I'll call this whatever, rainwater sensing, because I may add a weather station later that shows the rain coming in. And so I might want to, if I go back to the dashboard here, I might want to put another panel in here that says like, hey, this is how much rain has fallen. And then now this is how much, rain has come into the barrel. So if I multiply out the square meterage of my roof, I could assess how efficient my roof is at collecting this stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So think of this whole thing as your dashboard, and then this piece is the panel. And now we're going to do a little bit of admin work and kind of clean a couple things up. So we're going to go to our terminal. And in the terminal, and you're going to get all this stuff from the tutorial. This guy right here here's where I am on this piece here. Is we're going to go ahead and grab this command, and in our terminal, run through this thing. So I'm going to say, hey, cool. I want to look at this guy. I'm going to make this a little bit longer here. And in this case, I'm going to go down and look for where it says server. Now you can't use your mouse as much as I would like to. So you have to use the up and down arrow keys. I'm going to set my domain to be grafana.gristleking.dev and my root URL to be this HTTP grafana.gristleking.dev. You can leave everything else, almost everything else there at default as it is, and then this allow embedding, we're going to make it true. If you want to make little notes to yourself, you can put this little pound or hash sign here and then put this in there. When you're done, I'm going to hit Control X for exit. I didn't change anything, so it didn't ask me to change. It may ask you to, if you want to confirm the changes, you hit Y and then enter. And then that should do that. And then we're going to go back to our tutorial, grab the next command, which is going to be this restart piece. I didn't change anything, so it doesn't matter that much for me, but you have changed something, so it will matter for you. And then now you've set up Grafana so that you can share your public dashboard URL. So we're going to go back into Grafana, and we'll get rid of our terminal. And we've saved our dashboard. Let's see. So we're looking at this thing now, and we're going to exit edit. And then I'm going to hit share. So this guy right here, I'll go to public dashboards. I'm going to check all three of these boxes. And then I'll generate a public URL and copy this. And then that's your URL that you can share. So when you share that URL, you will see, let's see if I can set up an incognito window here. Okay, I've set up my incognito window, and I'm going to go ahead and paste in that link that we just created. And here it is. And anyone in the world can go and look at this thing. This is totally public, but they can't go to the rest of your setup. So if they wanted to go and like, oh, I'm just going to sneak around and poke in this dude's Grafana, they get blocked because of the service auth tokens that we set up before, so that they can't go mucking about in our Grafana piece. So that's it. You've now done the whole thing. You've set up the entire dashboard. This is the thing that you are going to be able to share. So from here, the exciting thing to do is just get in there and muck about a bunch more with Grafana. So let's get rid of this screen share here. And in Grafana, in here, get in and just create a couple more. So you can say like, hey, I want to edit this thing. I'm going to add a new visualization. I want this thing to be something different. This is my weather station data. For all of these queries, just use ChatGPT or Grok or Perplexity or whatever your favorite GPT is to help you write those things, to help you see what it is that you want to see. And then you'll end up with your dashboard saying, we'll save this dashboard as just absolutely nothing. And then we go back to the dashboard, and now I've got this new panel here. So if I wanted to put all my weather station data on here, if I wanted to put how much rain has fallen, if I want to put the outside temperatures, if I wanted to put the water turbidity, if I wanted to measure stuff in the rainwater tank, like all of those things can go here. And this can be my whole rainwater sensing piece, and you can share this with whatever and whoever you want. So that's the whole thing. That's the tutorial. There's some security stuff that you can do. We'll talk about down at the bottom of the tutorial. But for what we've got right now, that is what I wanted to show you. And congratulations. I've got a little teaser on here. So this is an example of what I was talking about. You can set up all of these different pieces here. So this is an indoor sensor here. This is where I did all my burpees, and the thing went crazy. I jacked up the CO2 in my room, closed all the doors and the windows, and then had the indoor air quality thing firing into my Node-RED. Node-RED went to InfluxDB. InfluxDB went to Grafana. Here's the Grafana piece, and you can see that the CO2 jacked right up. We did drop connectivity in the middle of it, so there's that. And then the last thing here, we'll get to Home Assistant integration in another video, is for these flows, you can share a flow. And what I've done with this is I've shared the same flow that we just set up with you. And so in this case, you could just download this flow and import it into your Node-RED, and you'd have a full flow there. So if you create a flow that's super cool, you're like, oh, this is what I did for Home Assistant, or I sent it to this new thing, you can save that and share that with people. So hopefully that's like a nice big overview of the whole thing for you. And this has been a super exciting thing to set up your own set up your own dashboard that you can share with anyone, anywhere in the world for any sensor that you put on Helium. And that's it. Rock and roll. I'll see you on the next video. I'm out.